Welcome everyone to the C-Suite Sales and Marketing Perspectives podcast. I'm Steve McDonald, your host, and today we have a very special guest, Tami Cannizzaro. Now, Tami, you are a two-time B2B CMO. You've been from startups to major Fortune 500 organizations, IBM, Cisco, eBay. So you've had quite a broad spectrum. And you have recently been awarded one of the top 25 agentic marketers. And that's going to really talk to where we're going to focus the conversation here today is the evolving role of the CMO, what AI means in that. And it seems like every podcast, every webinar is all about AI, right? But we're talking about really what it enables you to do. And so many CMOs are very centric towards demand generation, where you're very focused on owning the entire buyer's journey and making sure that the CMO plays a significant strategic role throughout. And so that's what we're going to unpack today, as well as you were just talking, we both have kids in college. And so we're at that stage in life. You're an avid snowboarder. And I would love to learn more about your background before we dive right in. So if you wouldn't mind expanding on your background just a little bit.
Sure, great. Yeah, I started my marketing career back at IBM and we moved around at IBM. So I worked almost every job in marketing at IBM for different categories, different buyers, which gave, I think, me a good foundational understanding of really thinking through the ICP you're going after, the category, and really how to tackle a category. I've held that throughout my career, sort of a similar strategy to category build, where you really think through your 360 marketing plan. After IBM, I moved to a number of different companies. I felt there have been some fundamental foundational skills that have remained the same throughout my marketing career that I continue to use to this day as I've moved from smaller companies to different categories like cybersecurity. Many of the tools and fundamentals remain valid today. Of course, AI being the big game changer.
So tell me a little bit about the agentic marketer. What does it take to be awarded the top 25 agentic marketers? What does that mean?
I really have made a student of myself. You talk about everything's AI. I've really become a student and I'm working with, especially Claude is my personal favorite, Copilot, ChatGPT, really to understand fundamentally, and then lots of tools throughout the stack to really start to work through, okay, what does this look like? How do we pull this through to the new marketing model? I think around just lighting up all of the AI capability that we can for Thryv and testing and really getting out there and pushing the boundaries of AI for CMOs and marketers.
Let's jump in. You talk about AI and ABM and a convergence that's happening there. And I just wanted to understand a little bit more about what you meant by that.
Essentially, when you really think about ABM has been all about personalization, understanding your customer at a personal level, and being able to do outreach at a more customized personal level versus these mass broad outreach. AI has really given us the ability to truly reach out at a human level. Let's say you take a Clay and your marketing automation system and you're laying in outreach through, let's say it's email, through an AI email platform capability. You're really able to take AI to that next level and understand, where is Tami in the journey? What is Tami's problem? There's a company out there, OneMind, that now you'll come to their website and they will say, "Hi, Tami, how are you? How can I help you today? What's your problem? Walk me through my problem and how your solution helps my problem." And that's an example where you're not just using it for demand generation, you're actually using it for the contact point at your brand to really reach that consumer, that buyer, where they are.
I'm going to play a little bit of a contrarian role here because ABM is all about personalization and hyper personalization. We've heard that so much, it's almost become like the word value, right? It's just like it rolls off and over us. With AI, doesn't it make everyone have access to personalization? The level of content, the level of personalization is now happening. It used to be that we had to work harder at that. And the more harder that we worked at it, the more personalization went in, the more differentiation for us as a company. That's a very top level way of looking at it. But now everybody has access to these tools. How does ABM not just become ubiquitous now with content.
I think it will be the new standard. Think about your inbox today. How many of your emails that you get, your cold emails, are just completely generic? I would say the bulk of them,
Mm.
95% of them. Think about the ads that you get. How many of them are generic? I would say 95% of them. Think of the websites that you go to. They're pretty much generic websites, not customized for, sometimes there's little customizations, but for the most part, the journeys today, maybe there's modest personalization, i.e., they're sending me because they know I'm in an age bracket, I'm a woman, and I've bought X before, right? Consumer brands are pretty good at that. I do think this will be a much different level of personalization that we start to see. And I think the best brands that really figure that out will really end up moving forward in this major shift as brands sift out and sift back in.
There surely is an opportunity for that. Even with AI, you're right. It's amazing how much, I don't know how many emails I get a day where it starts out, Stephen, comma, quick question. You guys really
Exactly.
still doing this?
Exactly. You're right.
So tell me a little bit about the evolution of the marketing department that is needed to happen here. You talked about, how we've been highly creative in the past and we need to move towards more of a technical marketing department. A lot of CMOs would say, I've created data lakes now. I've got marketing ops. I'm like very data oriented. Where are we today and where do you see it going?
I do think with AI, maybe a year ago, we were being asked at a board level, how are you using AI? The big worry I would say at a board level was, are you still being found online? Do you understand how SEO has changed? Are you becoming more efficient across your company? I think that will evolve to companies starting to understand what roles go away and can be fielded by AI. And that's a much different conversation. I do think that the role of the CMO, the marketer, will be to literally figure out, can I put myself out of a job with AI? And okay, if I have put myself out of a job with AI, what is my new job? And how can I provide value as a human augmented by AI?
So you mentioned something there, which is a bit contrarian to what everybody wants to say is politically correct answer, right? It's not going to replace our jobs. Like we're CMOs, right? Might replace lower level jobs, but not us as CMOs. Like, what's your opinion on that?
The reality is you will need less people to do the job that you're doing today. Sure, you could cover more ground with the same team and say, okay, I'm going to cover more ground and we're just going to be smarter and we're going to be better. But the reality is some of these staff level roles will go away. For instance, let me give you an example. So I'm a CMO and I've done pretty much every job at a staff level because I've been moved around in different roles younger in my career. And so I feel pretty comfortable doing most roles. An exception would be PR. I've never really written press releases, done a stint in PR. And so if I took a job and you said, okay, Tam, you have 5 marketers to run your marketing program, or you have 10 marketers to run your marketing program, I would always, one of my top picks would be PR, but that's where I don't feel as comfortable if I need to totally cover that base, writing press releases at a staff level. Now I do feel comfortable running the strategy for PR. Would I necessarily need a PR person to write all my press releases? No. I could work and say, CMO agent, will you draft me a PR plan and brainstorm with that agent to come up with some really clever cornerstone announcements? And I could explain to it our products and it could roll that whole beautiful thing out in a monthly plan. So that I think, okay, I don't need a PR person. Oh, but wait a minute. You do need a PR person because who's going to call the journalists and pitch the stories? Who's going to maintain those relationships with the key trade publications and get our earned media? The role just changes. It doesn't go away. But if your passion in life is writing press releases, you might want to rethink a broader strategy for your career. And every single role within marketing, you have to think through, okay, what piece of this role either goes away or is not as mission critical because AI can handle 90% of it. And then what roles don't go away? What roles are still need that human to human contact? So on and so forth across the whole marketing organization. You should be trying to put yourself out of a job to the greatest extent possible because that's going to make you seem very valuable. If you say, well, I used to spend 10 hours a week where I wrote content and now I use AI and I can write 10 times the content, or I only need a team of 2 versus a team of 10. Whatever it is, you really do need to create that story where you're using agents as staffing part of your team. I think we'll start to see org charts with AI agents in select places, right? Marketing ops and the coding, you should start to see org charts with agents on them.
That's interesting. I've never thought about it that way. An org chart with agents inside. Phenomenal. So how does that allow you to not just be better at what we traditionally do? You talk about owning the growth strategy. And as marketers, CMOs, we've been asked over and over again, we want you to be pipeline focused. What that is saying is we want you to own more of the execution to ensure that we grow revenue. We want to be more than just MQLs, right? And we want to be more than just one of the biggest cost centers in the business. So what does owning growth strategy mean to you as a CMO?
The owning growth strategy is really understanding a category and a buyer in your category and really helping the line of business to understand from a product capability, competition, a revenue, go to market standpoint. How do we tackle that category? How do we have the permission to really become one or two within a category? Do we have the best product? How are we differentiated within the category? Are we going and taking a niche piece of that category? It starts with the kind of the strategy of category ownership, and then everything falls from there. Do we have a direct sales force that we're going to figure out a brilliant sales play, usually an ABM style sales play to go and tackle accounts? Is it a partner-led strategy where we're going to partner and work with either agency partners or partners in some capacity that help to resell our product? Or is it a PLG motion where the product is so beautiful, customers can get their hands on it and they can fall in love with it, and then there's an expansion strategy. Then, of course, there's always your install-based strategy. How are we going after keeping our customers happy and growing their share of wallet with our company is another piece of that. Every single company is a snowflake. You really need to think through where, and that go-to-market strategy really informs where do you put the wood behind the arrow? Where do you spend your money? Is it on an ABM style program? Is it on digital marketing? I find more and more after COVID really do want to meet and they want to see each other in person, and any sort of human relationships and community does very well today. I always try to make sure everything's not digital, and I get so excited about my digital marketing. Everybody loves to see the new ad campaign, but
Right.
I think it's really important that these category strategies include offline and online components to them. You can really design these category plans and really do a good job. I used to sit in a room, we'd war room these category plans, and we would write on the wall the picture of our ICP and what do they like to do and what kind of things do they care about and what do they read. We would go and really think through, okay, how do we target them? How do we get to them? And then what's our strategy going to be? At the end of the day, we would have this beautiful marketing plan. And today we do that with Claude sitting in the room. It really does help take it to the next level because Claude can ingest all of your competitors and their go-to-market models as well. And it's very powerful.
You and I were talking about that. Think back a couple of years ago. If the board had said, we're going to do an extra allocation and we're going to get 3, 4, or 5 best category PhD experts, and Tami, we're going to give them to you to utilize. You direct them. They're now part of your team. Sam Altman said last 6 months or so, just like, you've got now PhD experts in every category. That's really what you're saying. Is how do we utilize that? Because that's a tremendous value. It's a tremendous asset. There was a gentleman who came on, CMO of a Fortune 500 company, and he had just outsourced the majority of his marketing department to Accenture. One of the big reasons why is because he said, we need new competencies and capabilities that I haven't overseen before. I don't have on my team. I don't have in my company. And they're a Fortune 5 company. And he was talking about, for a lack of a better term, prompt engineers. It's one thing to be able to say, oh, I'm going to create a CMO agent next to me and ask it questions, but how sophisticated you get with that prompt and how you engineer that PhD level capability is going to be more and more important. And then how the agentic flows and things you put into it. I thought that was fascinating. It came up when you were like, "Oh, I want agents
Yeah.
on my org chart," right? You know?
I was a little frightened by AI because I'm not an engineer. I don't have a technical background. And I've always said that's a little bit of my superpower as a marketer because I often think sometimes we make these products too technical. And at the end of the day, being a CMO or heading up a category is about great storytelling. I actually think it's been a strength. I was a little worried with AI. I thought, oh God, I don't know how to build an AI agent. How am I going to build a CMO agent? Maybe I can hire someone. And then you just get in there. The beauty of AI is that if you don't know how to do something in AI, you just ask it. It's not like it's this hidden secret or this technical code or understanding or knowledge that you need. I would say there is a systems component of how these things flow and integrate together. I'll call it the traditional kind of marketing ops, your stack that will become technical. But in terms of figuring out who your AI agents are within your organization and then building out those agents, you really don't need any fluency whatsoever for it to sort of embed your knowledge as a CMO. I keep using PR person. Product marketer is a great example, right? Your knowledge as a product marketer, it's almost like you've just hired your most senior level
Mhm.
person that is your most strategic asset on the team. We used to call them the top performer. Just think of it as you just hired your top performer and they're sitting right there next to you in Claude. And that is your product marketer agent. You could have that product marketer inform it with all your years of what you've learned and your strategy and embed it, just embed your plan documents. And here's my CMO dashboard, Claude. Here's my strategy deck I've done for the last 8 quarters. Come up with some new ideas. So you're really informing it with your intelligence and then blending that intelligence with, I'll say, the intelligence of the universe to inform that plan. It's very powerful. I would be reluctant to outsource it because at some point you really need to build the skills within your organization or you're not going to have that knowledge. I guess in this case, he didn't have a marketing team. That's interesting.
No, he had a marketing team. His words were, "I outsourced the vast majority of my marketing
I
team."
see. I see. Interesting, interesting. I've never loved that about working with agencies, and I work with agencies, of course, all the time. But when you do work with agencies, you are outsourcing some of the work and that domain knowledge.
We talk about knowledge, like in domain knowledge. One of the things that AI does not have, and what most organizations don't have, and this is like a McKinsey talking, is there's a gap. And it's around like the customer and who owns the customer and the knowledge from that customer. And then how that knowledge gets democratized across all the teams. McKinsey, they had a study in, I think it was 2023, and they said that less than 15% of organizations actually execute well on a voice of the customer program. Yeah, this is the highest voice of authority in our business, right?
Yeah, I
So,
believe.
how do you close that gap?
It is very tricky because we talked a little bit earlier about the marketing organization changing and how it would evolve and change. The entire business structure would need to change to really change how customers are serviced. At least the companies I've worked for, there have always remained these silos. Your VP of customer success owns the customer relationships, and then marketing owns often the marketing or the expansion, but not always the customer experience because you don't own the entire customer experience, right? You don't own billing. You don't obviously don't own lots of aspects of the customers calling in for service, for customer service, support, those kind of relationships. And so it's very difficult. I haven't found that the technology has yet evolved to a point where there's someone in the driver's seat of that relationship. And I couldn't agree more. I would be lying to you if I said I'd solve that one.
It's interesting. Like when you and I first met and we had a call to talk about what we wanted to talk about before the podcast here. And I asked you a question that I ask every single C-suite executive that comes onto the podcast. And that's, what do you think the top two challenges to creating long-term sustainable growth are, right? In a B2B ABM motion. The number one answer to that is, as was the number one challenge, is internal alignment.
Yeah. Oh,
Internal alignment.
you'll laugh. We're talking about technology and AI, but the way I do this is I get everyone in a room, the folks that actually own pushing the email out, answering the phones at a department level, and we all get in a room and we say, "Okay, let's audit 20 customers." And we literally come in, someone comes in with an audit on paper, prints it out, and we put it all up on the wall. and look and say, okay, G marketing, did you need to send that email the day after billing or whatever it is? I promise you, so many different observations will happen around, oh, look at the tone or the brand or the style or how that was signed. And it's really powerful. I mean, maybe it seems a little basic to just do this kind of audit and put it all up against the wall. I'm sure there's some type of a tool that does this, but that's how I've tackled it because I believe it's so fundamentally critical. And then it's not like you do one audit and fix everything and okay, you're off to the races because people are constantly evolving their strategy, their checkpoints, hires, people are moving in and out of the organization. So that's the kind of thing you have to do on a regular basis. And then we regularly have a churn war room where we look at the churn and we see, why have these customers churned? What wasn't great about their experience?
We've talked so much about AI agent. Just as you were talking, I was thinking about this is we need an internal alignment agent that looks over everything that marketing is putting out, everything customer success is putting out, everything billing's putting out, everything sales is putting out, from emails to transcripts of what's being said to the demand gen campaigns that are being promised. AI would be able to look at that
I love
and
that
say,
idea.
oh my goodness. So
See? We didn't need McKinsey for that. We just figured this out right now.
but one of the highest level things that would do, it would look at messaging, it would look at tone, it would look at timing, but it would look at things like the ICP. It would look at things like what are our foundational unique go-to-market strategies and how are they being aligned between departments? We know some of the criticism is what marketing's promising and what sales is saying and what customer success is trying to deliver on and product can be very different. And we're the same company. It seems like such a basic thing, but I'm going to tell you right now, 98% of the challenges that C-suite executives talk about are internal challenges. And it blew me away at the beginning. When we don't lose an account, what happens? It wasn't, oh, this is what we did, this is what we did. It's what they did and what happened. It was all external. But when I asked C-suite executives the challenges, number one, internal alignment. Number two, lack of a deep understanding of the voice of the customer. Number three, the imbalance between short-term and long-term focus and what we're doing. It is interesting, this idea of having the AI agent literally keep us accountable amongst ourselves.
I love that. I love that idea. At the C-suite level, you have this agent that is really a subjective agent that could weigh in on what's going wrong. Because often I do think some of that can be political. You don't want to point out, hey, customer success, you're not doing the right thing over there, or whatever it is. Nobody's perfect. It can become people sort of a little bit holding close to the vest their data or what they're seeing, scores, whatever the heck it is. And so if all the data is used to inform this agent, then I think it would be better received. I've often said that about agencies. If I ask an agency, like you ask McKinsey to come in and tell you what's wrong, they'll do it. They'll do it. And everybody says, oh my gosh, McKinsey has said we've known this was broken
Right,
for 5 years, guys,
right, right.
but
Well,
it's
guess what? Guess what? That agent, you could tell that agent, say, if I
yeah,
brought in
it's a good idea.
McKinsey, Deloitte, Bain, Accenture, and
Yeah,
Boston Consulting
yeah.
Group, what
It's a
would
great
each of
idea.
them tell us, right?
Oh gosh, we've
So,
just all out of business, Steve.
you know, I have one last question because we've covered a lot of really great territory, but I want to give you the opportunity that if there was one thing that you wanted the C-suite executives that are going to be listening to this conversation, the one thing that you wanted them to take away from our conversation here today, what would that be?
I think it would be, don't be afraid of AI. And if you're someone who's afraid of change, you should really wrestle that to the ground because it's going to be a pretty wild ride over the next year or so, where we're really starting to see AI change how people buy, the role of marketing. Don't be afraid of it. My buddy Jay Swedelson, he does this great keynote where he just said, I tell AI everything. Don't be afraid of it. Tell him what you had for dinner last night. Tell it everything about you. So it really knows who you are to the extent that you can really train your AI to who you are and the power that you bring your sort of human advantage and marry it with AI, you will be successful. And if you don't know how to do something with AI, literally just ask it. and AI will tell you in very simple, non-technical ways how to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. It would actually be interesting to put in your right after we're done here, I'm going to ask Claude what it thinks of your idea around an AI agent for internal alignment. I think it'll like it.
Well, the mission of this whole podcast is just to bring different ideas, different perspectives, different ways of thinking, contrarian, myth busting, whatever. And if we can do that from the level of the C-suite, because the C-suite, like when you first took over as a CMO, you didn't give up your marketing domain, but you took on a much greater role in terms of the strategic direction and growth of the business. And so that's the level of thinking that we like to bring on. And if we can just bring all that thinking together, it's like the rising tide that lifts all boats. And I just wanted to say that I thought you were an amazing part of that rising tide today.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you. Great to be here.